people don't actually use them every day, and they don't realize that they actually are affirming to themselves, but usually in a negative light. They're usually worrying about something, but that's the same thing. It's an affirmation, except what you're doing is you're praying for something that you don't want.
Wow.
Which is not a good thing. Right? You might as well affirm what you want. But saying something out loud, what it does is, the spoken word, when you hear your own voice out loud, and you say something over and over and over, you can literally program, and reprogram your unconscious. John Kehoe used to talk about this in his book Mind Power. He wrote that book 35 years ago, roughly now. One of the very first books that was written on the subject. Very easy book to read, not very thick and big writing, easy to read it very quickly, but it's a very, very powerful book. And what he did was he went into, he built himself a cabin in the Canadian woods, and spent months in the Canadian woods and built himself a cabin, lived on the land, didn't have any electricity, and was going through, a very introspective time, and just had a fantastic experience, and really was inquiring, what is the mind, and was doing a lot of self-talk, and came across the concept of abundance in a very powerful, tangible way, because he didn't have anything, he didn't have any money, and he was living on the land, and every now and again he would go into town, and on the very little money that he had, which he was getting from the state, he would buy himself, basics that he needed, and he would go back to the cabin and live there for a long time through cold winters and everything. But at that time he started looking around and said, well, I don't have much, but he looked around and he saw the leaves on the trees in the spring, and he said, well, there's an abundance of leaves, there's an abundance of trees, there's an abundance of pebbles, there's an abundance of sky, there's an abundance of clouds, abundance of snowflakes, and he started looking for all things that were in abundance, and then literally that became his consciousness. He started focusing on abundance, and then he wrote his book Mind Power, and then he went on a world tour, and that book has sold over 15-20 million copies now around the world, and he's been around the world 6 or 7 times teaching. He's retired now, but he used to talk in that book. He talks about incantations and affirmations. He says you got to say, if you say something out loud every day, just find 6 or 7 phrases. And one of the phrases I took from his book was, my subconscious is my partner in success.
My subconscious is my partner in success.
Yeah. Wow. And a lot of people, the subconscious is not usually their partner in success, because their subconscious is driving their negative behavior or their destructive behavior. They don't realize it. The subconscious actually literally drives behavior. But if you can embrace your subconscious and recognize that it is there to help you and serve you, then you can literally program it, over a period of time. It takes practice, obviously, every day. Yeah. But it's something, this subject is never really, you never arrive at a place where you think, okay, cool, I'm done now. I don't need to continue working on myself. I'm fixed now. I'm perfect, right? You have to continuously do it, right? Because you arrive at the next challenge, and then how do you climb the next level, right? How do you get to the next level? Then you have to unpeel more of the onion again.
I want to touch back, if I may, on something you said a little bit earlier on about accident, and it wasn't an accident. You don't believe in accidents and so forth. Just tell us a little bit about that. Your thoughts in terms of
my philosophy on that is when I went to 2 Catholic schools, right? So from the age of 3, I was going to Sunday school, Sunday morning, and so I had religious dogma, I was indoctrinated from a very young age, and then I went to 2 Catholic schools. And so when I came out of school and I went straight into the army, and I came out of Angola at the end of '87, and having been on that operation for 7 months, and having done what we had gone through there, which was a top secret operation. We had 6,000 troops, and we were at war, and it was the height of Angola's civil war, and we were part of that. So I lost a lot of friends, and I had to do things that I wasn't very proud of at the time, so when I came out of that, I had this guilt, massive guilt around, thou shalt not kill, which is one of the 10 commandments, which I had, indoctrinated into me since the age of 3. Yeah. So I never really saw myself as religious, but I was fascinated about how do I get past that now,
Yeah.
Because that was, just always in my mind, for months, and as a result, that drove me, into drink and alcohol. And I used to drink every day, and then I started taking drugs every day, and I was just having this constant conversation. So I decided to start reading, about religion, and spirituality, and I read all different kinds of religions, because I wanted to I wanted to develop my own personal philosophy, you know, about what God is. If there is a God, if there is religion, what is it, you know? I didn't want to just, you know, continue with the indoctrination that I had as a youngster because I was told to believe it. I didn't really believe a lot of it. And now I was at a point where, you know, I've done something I'm not too proud of. I've killed other people. And I did it because I was trained. But at the same time, you know, really looking back, you know, I could have said, no, I don't want to do it. But I did it. So I was having that kind of conversation. So when I started reading about religion, etc., and I started reading about, you know, spirituality, and then I read many different things that really just, it just felt right to me, you know, it made sense. It was a knowing kind of, you know, just thought, wow, it was like, I say to people, you know, we have a knowing in us already about how things should be and how things are. We have a knowing, and then suddenly you might read some information, and what it does is it releases that knowing in you, and you think, you know what, this is something I've always known, and I just realized this moment now, where everything else might be a belief or an idea that's fed to you, but a knowing is something you already have. And so a lot of the stuff that I was reading, I just arrived at a point where I thought, you know what, actually, the soul is infinite and is eternal, you know, and you know, if we look at how, you know, the universe is unfolded and evolution and consciousness, all of that kind of made sense to me. And then I looked at quantum physics, and I thought, well, you know, if you look at energy, and you know, energy never really disappears; it just changes form. Right? You can't, if you heat water, it turns to steam. If you freeze it, it's ice. You know, if you can never really make it disappear. If you burn wood, it's smoke and ash. You know, it's still back into the energy. So I arrived at this point where I thought, you know, there's no accidents in life. You know, everything happens. You know, we have free will, but at the same time, there is also, I believe that we are all connected to the same energy source. We're all plugged in to the same source, and you can either be aware of that or you aren't. But if you're aware of it, then you can actually, you know, you can use it. You know, because you have that ability to tap into that universal mind. You know, you've got your mind, then you've got your unconscious mind, then you've got universal mind. And that universal mind is the energy that's flowing through all of us all at the same time. So I don't believe there's any accidents. I believe that everything happens, you know, when it's supposed to happen, and you are literally kind of co-creating that. Even if you don't understand that consciously, I think at the level of the soul, you know, Paulo Coelho, you know, the great author, he says that when souls meet, they're already arranged to meet long before they were physical entities. You know, long before they became physical bodies, or they entered the physical body. Those souls already had made contract to meet. And so I think that when you meet someone, there's always a gift, an exchange of gifts. There's no accidents. You know, if you meet somebody at the supermarket, you know, if you bump into somebody in Tesco, it's about being aware and conscious.
Is that similar to sort of law of attraction, or is that
well,
more cosmic?
Well, yeah, I think the law of attraction is really the law of vibration, right? Because we are vibrating all the time, and you know, everything's vibrating at a different frequency.